Gilg Jew, Gilg J as Gilg Nerus.
As William Seward is Claare na Gael. I'm Robert Cattin Carswell, Robert de Carslach.
Have I heard tell of old Bobby Bob?
And Claare na Gael is a bilingual programme, with one thread of it in the English language as leis Snael Yagisa and with another thread of it in the Manx Gaelic, Chenya na Mera, the mother tongue of Alan Vanning, the Isle of Man. As Bannacht and Jurish. In 1906, William Gell, an Onchan man, published what was his third book, and that was called Mannin Veg Veen, which was the title of his poem, which covered 63 pages and described a tour around the island. We'll have a look at how that book is introduced, and we'll move on to get a flavour of William Gell's writing. To Quincey Morris, as an Dr John Seward an Derrichow, as an Charn Godalming as Jonathan Harker an Chauelia, as to chit leiter-wagon Szganee, ten Kistja as an Count Dracula. Szganee de Mina Harker, de veli fo Jonathan Seward as Strayen Count Chlaare. We start with a song in Gaelic na Halibeh, written by Rachel Walker, but she's using the traditional form of a walking song. Rachel leads the way here with the band CRUINN. Tashu geishtach rish radio vanning stasiwn yn asiwn, visgol sgelia mach, vai dúlish alyn vanning. Rachel Walker, leading Scottish group CRUINN in her song about a cheat, a fair-haired boy who proved false, Oran and t-slaightear. Is that perhaps a wren o' sleech? The song of the sleech. Anyway, more from CRUINN later. After a page giving the title of the book, Mannin Veg Veen, the next page has a full-page photograph for what the caption calls Mannin's Vice-Regal Lodge, which is, of course, Bemaheg House in Onchan. The caption is looking on the Lieutenant Governor as a viceroy, and at that time, of course, the Lieutenant Governor was virtual dictator of the island, with powers to get what he wanted and stop that which he didn't. The first Lieutenant Governor who went to live at Bemaheg was in fact Lieutenant Governor Henry Broom Loch, who leased it on a personal basis in 1863. However, subsequently, 1871, Tynwald passed an act confirming the lease of Bemaheg to the Treasurer of the Isle of Man. For various reasons, that lease was extended over a number of years, and that was the situation until the 24th of November 1903. So an anniversary of 221 years ago today, when the property was sold to Tynwald for £12,000, and of course continues as the official residence of the Lieutenant Governor. Ons tullach, for Jonathan limasús a chert, as leis neart for Jean de Erskine credu, chrog sús a kistje moor, as chiaull a herische wheel gus a tolu. Edder and Eire, ve a manche Morris Jin a wimme Jane Yard, de roll through the Chowegga Jane Charkel de Szganee. Uljuan treg in Tarnennel, va mi Jean Jonathan, va mi as Corneel Muhulia, nagen, manche Morris, sai the Debijach a hoyacht, as va mi nagen, skinnen the gypsy and verleesige, gouds renne kostner, redden and druid, as rennet Scotchelegge. Ve a cho siad leis a skin vúr voe ege, as ege toich van mi smunnion der aweshen nis je trúd de sautja. Ach, gouds renne limmers jaag Ljoris Jonathan, Ljoris nish va limme nis vain gert, dat mi vagen de rauwe lauwgerige greme ljadi, as de rauw fool sprai maag trúd na merege. Now we heard a lighter-voiced Theo Le Maguette singing with the musicians and voices of the dancers of an early Cercle Celtique in Brittany, Abel Le Ben. I think they were based in Paris, actually, Breton people who were living in Paris. And here's Theo Le Maguette again, singing in the same company.
Mam retain mijn danterline Jim. Mam retain mijn danterline. Mam retain mijn danterline. Neem je aan mij de beling la. Neem je aan mij de beling. Danterline mine pochette Jim. Danterline mine pochette. Danterline mine pochette. Nader beling de eetje don la.
Son aérion, un corne chaud chéri sont là. Un corne chaud chéri sont là. Le matin me liner, matin gir. Le matin me liner, le matin me liner, mat. Na viva du dain me sagalon là. Na viva du dain me sagalon. Ya plahet mar le Bouddha hoji. Ya plahet mar le plahet mare bora, n'a pas so grands oreilles que non là. N'a pas so grands oreilles que non. Car ce gars la jeune tu as dit. Car ce gars la jeune tu. Car ce gars la jeune tu. Mal de vous dans la doche tu l'on a. Y'a mal de vous dans la doche tu. Et ma queue bled il s'aboutit. Ma queue
Weer blij in sa, en marinere voeste pladola. Marinere voeste pladola. Hola, hola, meline, le ragi. Hola, hola, meline, le. Hola, hola, meline, le. Vidarul ta gelmen dans terlola. Vidarul ta gelmen dans terlola. La routare d'ourrière de veuvoji. La routare d'ourrière de veuvoji. La routare d'ourrière de veuvoji. Caminarion en chatir vrola. Caminarion en chatir vrola.
And that's the voice of Theo Le Maguet. And normally he sings in the francophone tradition of Brittany. There he seemed to be singing in Breton, although my little Breton dictionary hasn't helped me decipher the title Man Donterline. Cherennig cumrail na iai shoh, son chawsren Jonathan, les brí jebejach, saich dera cion a kistja, ons eb de freisel jay, a fargel, les je skinboer kukriege, renne saich cion elia, les je voiege. Les eben a dewinje, renne fargel gol toiach der liege. Van a treinigen gul tarmach, les shien morskrijg, as van mullige gistje kjout foslich. Jorish en tre shoh van a gypsien, as otsen fagen around a Winchester and Girichorrel, as fo Vichin and Charn Godalming as an early Seward, a chorsus, as gerouwet shadow naiok. Van green bunnus angel schies mullion the sleichen, as for scared doen a cledden podden na lai ljouwer an jachte. Honnik me account na lai choustai jane gistje an oer. As perche ons tujum de garu vine gert scale harish. Ve jean go glass as bes, kaat gurish jollo as kier. Now, as there's this photograph of Bemaheg House associated with Lieutenant Governor in William Gell's 1906 book Mannin Veg Veen, it was only in 1920 that the nearby bridge became known as Governor's Bridge, and that was when rerouting of the TT course was done and they wanted a grand title for it. Earlier than that, it was known as Haywood's Bridge, or the Deemster's Bridge, after Deemster John Joseph Haywood, 1787 to 1855, who inherited Bemaheg but only ever leased it out, never lived there. I think he may have lived at Glencrutchery House, in fact. So, anyway, that's the diversion occasioned by this photograph in William Gell's book. The page opposite it is the title page, and at the top it gives a quotation. "'Tis Mona the lone where the silver mist gathers, pale shroud, whence our wizard chief watches unseen, o'er the breezy, the bright, the loved home of my fathers. O Mannin Machri, Mannin Veg Veen." E. Nelson. And E. Nelson, of course, is Esther Nelson, 1810 to 1843, whose father was successfully vicar of Jerby, Santon and Bride, and from Bride she published her Island Minstrelsy in 1839. And there we heard the Manx band Skeal, twin flutes or whistles of Brigitte and Simone with Paul on guitar from the second album Slipway. Siordiw stasiwn y nasiwn Radio Vanning, a sé Claare na Gael visgol sgelia ma cartnish, Mannin Peen, Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Have you heard tell of owl Bobby Bob?
Be cared you clash and Claare na Gael, Rish, Rishachten, look jiggle sgelia mach and chid chir shoh, trud in a degger Radio Vanning, as rai eish Rish, to enum jaolju na Claare na Regetten and Shen, as namastok Claare na Gael. The podcast jintjes, J. Claare na Gael, vis redden jes, trud in de degger Radio Vanning, na trud en reich de podcast jou, wel shen Apple Podcasts, Amazon Audible, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, na Alexa. After the quotation from Esther Nelson on top of the title page, there's the name of the book, writ bold in large letters over 3 lines, Mannin Veg Veen, and immediately underneath in smaller capitals, a poetical sketch of the Isle of Man. There's a small design of a 5-petal flower, and under that it says that it's by W. Gell, followed by the information that it's printed by S.K. Broadbent & Co. Limited, Isle of Man Examiner Office, Douglas, 1906. After a blank page there's a dedication, inscribed in the profoundest respect and esteem to that illustrious Manxman and scholar, A. W. Moore, Esquire, M.A., C.V.O., Speaker of the House of Keys. Another blank page follows, and then we get William Gell's preface, and it opens. This poem is specially written for the Manx people at home and abroad, though I venture to think it'll appeal to all who are interested in the island and its remarkable associations. Van Asulian Jurga, bleke de fergach les je hilia grena gonlesach as fisse me rovai. Gouds ren mi gien. Honnig na Sulien a green was Gael, as ren en shilje de roei ondau, chindag a shilje de variach. Ach, ons tullach, Henk Scabe was verleer skin boer Jonathan. Ren mi skreeg, gouds honnig mi a giara true de scornach, gouds eg an unshallid ren skin voi manche Morris, Thomas jachs a gree. Vei gurish mirrel. Ach raas na Sulien ein heen, as bonnes ons een treis om tarnennel, redden a kledden korp, mulmige gus John, as haie asnen shilje. Be tatnias gouds ta mi blio, eer ons a tollach shen jen fees de jernach. Sen eddenegge, va komme de hie, jen lid na dod mi riu ver kor shieltnes de bege na lion shen. Va Count Dracula nish na jadu nyen spare jurg, as va dag klaag jen na bollig en kagi bristegge, kumich mach und seisje na grenia va goldalai. Well, this is a song about a cross-border bell-ringing competition with teams from Devon and Cornwall. Sue White, a Cornish singer, sings it under the title of Callington Bell Ringers. Callington is in northeast Cornwall.
One day in October, neither drunken nor sober, or Broadberry down, I was wending my way, when I heard of some ringing, some dancing and singing. I ought to remember that Jubilee day. 'Twas in Ashwater town, the bells they did sound. They rang for a belt and a hat laced with gold. But the men of North Loo rang so steady and true, that there never were better in Devon, I'll hold. 'Twas misunderstood, for the men of Broadwood gave a blow on the tenor should never have been. But the men of North Loo rang so faultlessly true, a difficult matter to beat them, I ween. 'Twas in Ashwater town, the bells they did sound. They rang for a belt and a hat laced with gold. But the men of North Loo rang said to our party, we'll bring you a challenge again in a round. We'll give you the chance at St. Stephen's or Lanson, the prize to the winner, a note of £5. 'Twas in Carlington town, the bells next did sound. They rang for a belt and a hat laced with gold. But the men of Northloo rang so steady and true that there never were better in Devon, I hold. When the match it came on at good Carlington, for the bells they rang out o'er the valleys below. In the old and young people, the hale and the feeble, they came out to hear that sweet bell music flow. 'Twas in Carlington town, the bells then did sound. They rang for a belt and a hat laced with gold. But the men of Northloo rang so steady and true that there never were better in Devon, I hold. Those of Broadwood once more were obliged to give o'er. They were beaten completely and done in a round. For the men of Northloo were so steady and true that no better than they in the West can be found. 'Twas at Ashwater town and at Carlington town, they rang for a belt and a hat laced with gold. But the men of Northloo rang so steady and true that there never were better in the Devon, I hold.
Cornish singer Sue White singing of the Callington bell ringers, although it was the visiting team from Northloo in Devon who rang so steady and true to beat off the competition. And it was, of course, I've played that a month late, haven't I? Of course, it was one day in October as it started. Northloo, not to be confused with Loo in Cornwall. This is Northloo, all one word, North followed by L-E-W. Northloo is a little village in Devon. Ren the Gypsyan. As Udson Tiggle the Raushin, ons achdenjach en oors on skellel roosjen dunje maru, Chinde, gin vogel, as rennet markjach rasool maar de berg is on een vjouwesok. Ren Udson va gin kabel, liema soes a leiter-wagon, as dilia derne markie kabel dinde gregelad. Ren de modi older, va jaren bakkes voor de soutje, gaar toru. De Rausjen fagits nen lummergen. Ren Maintje Morris, ver tujum gus de tollu, na ljai een onlienegge. As kummel de lauw sait jarljadi, van voel foos deerte maakt truut na meregge. Raimite, no na ren kachel kajerik cum railminish, shen jis ren lie. Ren Jonathan gluna chauchulu jay, as ren dunje gortich, corna lai gion hielen. Les asne, gawe, les sheep vers, malau en shenegge van jou vrogit. Weet te jean der en fagen aan geesh me gries en edenem. Son, René Mungarm. And William Gell's preface continues. For steering a straight course, I've been largely indebted to Mr. Moore's invaluable history of the island, various publications of the Manx Society, the Reverend J. Quine's Isle of Man Illustrated, and the Reverend J. Cummings' Story of Castle Rushen. Now, there comes a section of the preface which I might be so unkind as to describe as a warning, because William Gell says, the reader will observe that throughout it's rhymed in triplets, and is probably the most lengthy example of that style in existence, and my chief desire is that it may find a place on every loyal Manxman's shelf. The author. Now, with regard to those rhymed triplets, the Isle of Man Examiner had some doubt and duly expressed it. Whether Mr. Gell was well advised on deciding on this form is perhaps questionable. It would appear, too, that the writer has occasionally been at some pains to keep himself within these self-imposed limits. And we'll get a taste of that next. Off to Ireland now for a Connemara singer, Sean MacConaughey, who sings about the rambling worker and Spalpeen Fanach.
Os ys balpin ach a trech a mission spigis lahar mragam, mar skapin shelf I ros en jarach en jeden a talti bana. Man skapin shelf I ros en jarach en jeden talti bana, mar lover gechte hen jen en kappels gerepen chikrikel fana. Os ma chwyn cen slan let a rwy mahar sga jojo gan ylan graver sgan sgat a ferrog ta ma hi eg ballen at lishar man am a gater ta blag lia dot is toig for galle be lasser in hinte krava be fin agus beuder a baur ag a marishin na kaur ag is balbin fanoch as I kedel on in gallis tale mission vi men sugo sasta sandarna lagar a list tale mission vi me boren krate ach a trivu lagar list tale mission hjurun hoiked ponter agal ach a dunganishin agus an dellen yiram faselen falam agus vi mis labra har varge kilchan agus anig seg a trum am baistach is har an meisteaskar me cool en ball agus as a me glich nan garte man a gleistach ar an ban a lenne les ulskan all in ma fai sion a jor gar a blei hu wasin go maiden ar a hisen ein spalbin fanoch agus vi mis labra hisen eilis vi naunjang gallem fan vi brax an askan sen bertin is latan sa ni gavrache se vi mra gan mo toki sien vi tan I tlajes a jon ban og a sin chelen a kurn dover manje agus badelum sa laven ja jakkan a kharet a blien vor randes ra man as bochelin erach mesugo gemenum nach avreka gebrindel wanle sa vantig vi get sig milom sulle ter from a loye be paiden a kalinere hein her tarshach no behave yourself as balbin fanoch
Sean McConaughey and the song and Spalpeen Farnach. A spalpeen, says the Baldrus Dictionary, is, as in the song, a seasonal hired labourer or a migratory farm labourer. But it's also used in the sense of a person, he says, of low degree, rude person, scamp. And as you heard, there a little bit of English at the end there, as he was being told to behave. Behave yourself, you Spalpeen Farnach, is said right at the end there. Now, under the title Mannin Veg Veen in an ornate box, there's a short explanation in rhyming couplets. Peculiarities perplexing plight, resolve thee, muse, to guide my pen aright. The more as I myself resolved this time to chant our three-legged fame in three-legged rhyme. And so we find Canto 1. To the Elysium of the sea, on the wings of fancy free, reader, come and trip with me. Turn we now from rude alarms to thy sweet perplexing charms, Mannin Veen, with legs for arms. Skim we first the rocky coast, where the Vikings ruled the roast. Yes, he really did write roast rather than roost there. Skim we first the rocky coast, where the Vikings ruled the roast, type of Europe's barbaric host. Denizen of creek and bay, corsair of the ancient day, when the Norse kings held their sway. Solitude, thy charms have fled from the brows of Douglas Head, where the lanterns nightly shed mercy's beams with radiant flash, bidding those unduly rash wear the breakers' rending crash. Dorte, genel meach manre de raumi jesher weesher be. O ye, daie de doltasmach, a zee streppe soest de vene haaies, schiene mach meer arm. Wei fewers on shoh de redden bijs, jich. Van green nisch kaart hies mullige kluw, as ren de skellen jurge chitterisch meiden, de raui bait on solis rushach. Lesion vree ren de denies sinkeil gus na gluwnige nok, as we Amen. Ingel, Gian, Brishamach aasdau, Gauser en de soelje nog geird er wij schient mag. Lore dunje vons rede wijs. Nish, leg de buis wij courage G, naar rauw ulje ons voordeel. Gich, genelde snjaagden een smoeg in kron en bijjeks, dan mollig jij zoel. As gesjarwe trimsje dingen, Leis munga as ons tastig, hure bes, na wunye dun. Some Welsh dance music played on the triple harp there by Robin Hugh Bowen.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Stasiwn yn asiwn to Radio Vanning, ysyn sio tasiw geisdiach, rys Claare na Gael. Mish Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert Carslach.
Did the other hear tell of old Bobby Bob?
As nish note Ljoris Jonathan Harker. Siach blina de henne haishin olju trud na loddachen. As tan manrus je pertjen nir shen lien, ledden few a pean renshin sorrel. She tatje smooth Mina as dus, de wel le ruggery a giljain, an onlae shen, hoer Quincey Morris bes. Ten voir eg a cummel te vissemer, a credu follich, de wel pert jen annem machare dunlein, en ols Jack Onsen. Ten bart den men eg a cochianle a pod en beg de renia kujach, ach she Quincey, tashin greirish. Setaura Melina heischen Turskus Transylvania, as heischen herish shan tollu va, as ta dingen choledden de chunjen brioil as aglach. Ve bunnes nieuw possible, de grel de raune riddin tasjen a nagen, lesh na suljen ein heen, as glaasjen, lesh na glaasjen ein heen, ne 9-4 brioil. Dag manne je ulju van, ve dollich mach. When the billow's hoary crest, ribbed on ocean's troubled breast, speaks of Neptune's grim unrest, towering cliffs the timid daunt, once the fearless urchin's haunt, now electric tractions jaunt. Well, I think that's bathos, with all the poetic fervour, undermined by a sudden anticlimax, switching from the sublime to the mundane, or silly. Not that I think the Douglas Southern Electric Tramway from Douglas Head to Port Sodrick was mundane or silly. It was a wonderful feat of engineering. However, here we have heightened poetic language about the coastline, with the billows' hoary crest and the towering cliffs and all that sort of thing. And it's deflated by, now, electric tractions jaunt. Well, I don't know, did William Gell intend that as a joke, or was he a bit tin-eared, perhaps? Or is it part of his difficulties with that rhyming scheme he gave himself, and he settled for that as a rhyme there, and it's a way of getting the tramway into it as well, of course. The Douglas Southern Electric Tramway opened in 1896 and ran for 3.5 miles for 5.6 kilometres, including some wonderful viaducts. It was closed during the First World War, but then it reopened. However, it closed again on the outbreak of World War II in 1939, and it didn't reopen thereafter. Well, here now is the Scottish group CRUINN again, this time with words collected in Alexander Carmichael's Carmina Godelica, and they're in praise of Magnus of Orkney, Manus Mruin, Manus my dear, killed by his jealous half-brother in 1115.
Vanish Marek
Cuairstích tan agus buar, cuairstích ceir agus uan, cumua ben abhúil san bhuicheáil. Ó bhanis ná ngláim, bhar ceann an saoil, bhar an town, saoil na fáin. Agus léisín, Crainn drúch gan spiarir cró, fod fasid fiartís snó. Dúrach bhús fé céis me gan is neáin. Ó bhanis ná ngláim, bhar ceann an saoil, bhar an town, saoil na fáin. Cúin agus gléistín, cúin agus gléistín, cúin agus gléistín.
Words from the Carmina Godelica, sung by Fiona Mackenzie, set to music by Fiona and her husband Brian O'Hara of the group CRUINN. So we're on the coast south of Douglas Head. Here of yore in secret cave, lawless crews the guns would brave, precious contraband to save. Disciples of Dirk Hatterick. Dirk Hatterick is a character in Sir Walter Scott's novel Guy Mannering, otherwise known as Jans Jansen, a noted smuggler, and described as being half Manx, half Dutchman, half devil, with a countenance bronzed by 1,000 conflicts with the northeast wind, his frame prodigiously muscular, strong and thick-set, with a careless, frolicsome jollity, but a surly and even savage scowl. In fact, the main story of Guy Mannering is set in Galloway, where there's a Dirk Hatterick's cave, named after part of the book. But that description of him as half Manx also enthused people to make Port Soderick more exciting by dubbing a cave there Dirk Hatterick's Cave, though the book itself doesn't bring the action to the island. The lawless crews and their contraband then, disciples of Dirk Hatterick, customs revenue to trick, did the guard, and did it slick. Van Castell na Chiadú mar rai, trogit urt skin Christ de Faden. Tre rensin ráshin tai, vashin lot jena shan len. Oru dodgin ulju gin back, gin mi jail. Sonta Godalming is Seward na nis poost de manra. Gaumi na peberen vain gistje leidja, on ta de rei, nirres hengsjen back gevoorde de henne. Vei cor yindes oren, ons a cledden baart de stew, aston recortes gint, Szganee te document bunnedach. Weg, ach, moeren de grijskrieuw. Rimme jane joren note vai tres aan me Mina Seward as Jean Peen, as memorandum Van Helsing. Szganee oddach shin shire pecher be de haige jousen shoh, ma prowlus je skiel chokai. Hug Van Helsing kunte kui je, gouds doorte as a gilja ein glún. Genelshin geri prowlus. Genelshin shire pecher be de grailshin. Well, having returned to CRUINN, let's return now to Breton singer Théo le Maguet, and he's singing lustily here against the great pipes of Pierre Bédard and also playing his bombard.
Ben le bonjour ma petite Jeannette, v'là ben longtemps que je ne t'avais vu. Ben le bonjour ma petite Jeannette, v'là ben longtemps que je ne t'avais vu. J'ai reçu des nouvelles du pays. Paraît que t'étais point sage comme tu me l'avais promis. Mon cher ami, n'écoute point ça, j'ai toujours eu l'amitié pour toi. Mon cher ami, n'écoute point ça, j'ai toujours eu l'amitié pour toi. J'en ai trouvé ben d'autres plus à monter, mais pour te faire plaisir, je les ai refusés. Pourquoi donc la refusais-tu? Tu savais bien que je ne t'aimais plus. Pourquoi donc la refusais-tu? Tu savais bien que je ne t'aimais plus. Tu ne voyais plus mes lettres, ni mon papier marqué. Tu devais bien voir, Jeannette, que je t'avais oublié. Accourez, venez écouter la jalousie qui le fait parler. Accourez, venez écouter la jalousie qui le fait parler. Il n'a point de ménage, ni même un peu d'argent, de quoi payer les bagues qu'on donne en se mariant. Ma petite, les bas que je te donnerai ne te feront point mal aux doigts. Ma petite, les bas que je te donnerai ne te feront point mal aux doigts. Je les donnerai à d'autres plus à mon gré. Et toi, ma petite Jeannette, tu restes à marier.
The way we've generally heard Théo le Maguet here in Claare Gael with the sturdy support of Pierre Bédard's great pipes. Théo le Maguet also played his bombard there, and Bombard and Bignot duo, Baron and Annex, made an album in fact called Hommage à Théo le Maguet. Bí fis-segur ilja shoh le enach, Creich o dena as dunnel event and voirega. Hanna te fissegge a gereil villish as graiachek. Na sanmi, ni a tiggle en ach, va kusterenia huish graiach ori, sliostau, Virginu, Oran, Asselje. Jonathan Harker. Unjera. Coasting round Port Sodric Bay, note we through the summer's day, youth and age alike at play. Santon's serried barriers mark, woe to the belated bark, tempest-driven in the dark. Derby Haven's airy creek furnishes to those who seek refuge from the city's reek. Nigh, the isolated fort, reared in days of warlike sport, antiquarians' resort. So William Gell's three-legged rhymes brought us down the east coast from Douglas Head to Castle Rushen. Ach, Szganee and tre shoh by Claare and Claare shoh Claare Gael. The best of chill-out music for your Sunday evening is on its way with Chris Pearson here from 7 till 9. At 9 o'clock and into the early hours of Monday morning, you can join Judith Leigh in the late-night listening lounge for sundown. We close Claare Gael with more music from the Manx band Skeel, twin flutes, whistles of Simone and Brigitte with Paul's guitar. Ach nish ten treir jit mahonda chor Count and Claare shoh, and so until the next time, this is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Oh, Bobby Bob.
Wishing you a very good night. Eve, I'm a crieriu, as Orserlier, as my year and shed you will you.